Ladies and gentlemen, today is the Yartzeit Hilula of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. Of today is Gimel Tammuz, the third day of Tammuz, and to try to get a little closer to the Rebbe, to try to understand the Rebbe a little bit better, it always helps to talk to people that worked alongside the Rebbe, the people that were very close with him. And Rabbi Moshe Lazar of Milan, Italy, is just such a person.
Connections with the Rebbe.
So Rabbi Lazar has been somebody that I have always looked up to. He just told me that my father also looks up to him.
He always looked up to
Two
you.
generations of people looking up to Rabbi Moshe Lazar.
New generation.
So it's an honor, and I'm very glad that Rabbi Lazar agreed to talk to me today, talk to us today on this very special day. So first of all, I want to say thank you very much for agreeing to do this. Toda Rabba. And as they say in Italian, muchas gracioso. Actually, don't know how you say that in Italian.
How do you say it in Italian?
What?
Grazie mille.
Grazie mille.
Grazie mille. Thank you very, very
Or
much.
spasibo in Russian.
Spasiba bolshoi. So are you in Italy now? Are you in Italy right now?
Are you in Italy right now?
Right now in Milano, Italy.
Baruch Hashem. Okay, I'm going to write a question over here now. Let's start from the beginning. The question I'm asking Rabbi Lazar is, Me'ayin Basa, your parents, your grandparents, how far back do you remember as far as your ancestors go?
We are from Vienna generations. My father had a salami factory in Vienna, which was brought back from generations. And my mother comes from Popa, Hungary, and they had the machine matzah bakery in Popa.
Did you have any yichus from?
And before that, I really don't know more than that. And more or less, this is generations that we were in Vienna and nothing to do with Hasidim. The only thing we had to do with Hasidim was since the Kapitchnitzer Rebbe passed away in Vienna, and before he passed away, my father got a little bit closer to him. He saw his greatness. So therefore, when he found out that Rabbi Garari was Adam, son-in-law Rebbe, we were living in Williamsburg, and I was going to Yeshiva Torah Vodaas. And when my brother came to America from in 1943, because all my brothers and sisters were sent away on the Kindertransport in 1939 before Hitler killed everybody. And we left in November 1939 after my brothers and sisters left. We came to America on the last ship, the Saturnia. And when my brother was in England, there was a very, very talented and very Hasidic Bocher by the name of Shlomo Unsdorfer. And he took all these little boys that were dreinzig in the streets in London, and he bought a little house in Staines on the River Tyne. And over there, he made a little yeshiva. In 1943, when the Atlantic again was open for passenger ships, my parents sent affidavits and visas for my brothers. And my brother, he asked, Shlomo Unsdorfer told him, when you get to America, go to a Hasidic yeshiva. In 1943, maybe you're a little bit knowledgeable for history. In 1943, how many Hasidic yeshivas were there in America? Exactly one. And we were living in Williamsburg, and this Hasidic yeshiva was in Crown Heights. And the old Mesivta Torah of Das stood right around the corner from our house. And my brother told my father, I want to go to Crown Heights to the yeshiva. My father looked at him. He said, yeah, but yeshiva around the corner. You're going to travel every day to Crown Heights? And he didn't let him go. Well, he went, he was registered in Torah Das, but for many reasons, he came home crying because the Bochum were making fun of him in those days. My brother had a little bit of a beard already. And those days in the Litvish yeshivas, to have a beard was looked upon like something out of this world. Nicht kein jüdische Sach. So he came home, the boys were making fun of him. So he came home crying every day until my father gave in. He said, okay, if you want to go, we'll go. But if you go, Moshe also has to go. So we came to Crown Heights, and Rebbe Garari's class and office later became the Albany Bakery. And over there, he registered us, and Rebbe Garari asked my father if he can pay $5 a month. It was a lot of money then. My father agreed to that, and we were registered in the Lubavitcher Yeshiva. And the yeshiva was then located on 1410 Union Street, the first house off Kingston Avenue on Union Street. And that's where we learned. And my first Rosh Yeshiva in Torah Das, my teacher was Rav Slanim, who was a Lubavitcher Chassid. And my first teacher in Lubavitch was Rabbi Lishinsky, who was a Litvish Misnagid. This is what was going on in America in those days. We didn't know anything what Chassidus is, nothing. We used to go in the yard in 770 and play stickball. Why stickball? Why not baseball? Because we didn't have money to buy bats. We used broomsticks. Anyways, one day, when I was in Yeshiva Torah Das, in the afternoon, we used to play in the street. There were no cars. You could play in the street. There was no problem. One day, a man with a beard passes by and he sees me with a yarmulke, and all my friends were goyim. In Williamsburg, we were only 2 Jewish families on the whole block. And he sees me with a yarmulke, he pats me on the head. And I saw this man with a beautiful smile and with a beard. What's going on over here? But anyways, when I went into Lubavitch, so one day we used to go from Union Street after we ate lunch to 770 and play in the yard. And the Friedrich Rebbe used to watch us from his window, and he used to smile. He used to be so happy to see Yiddish Kinderlach playing in his yard. And one day as we were going there, I see this man with a beard going into 770. And I go into 770 after him, and I ask the Bachrim, who's this man who came in here? Oh, that's the Ramash. Said in such a way that, like it's not important. The Ramash, because the Rebbe hid himself. Nobody knew who he was, what he was. He was mamash nechba lakelim. Anyways, this is the first relationship that we had with the Rebbe, and this was what New York was. When you used to get on the trolley car, I used to wear a baseball cap because I wore a yarmulke. The Italians who were on the trolley would start giving me slaps. It was very different than what it is today, the situation. But Baruch Hashem, we lasted, and we had someone who made us Hasidim. We didn't know what Hasidim were. I'll give you some example. When Rebbe Mentlik, when I became a mitzvah, asked me if I want to go to the Friedrich Rebbe for a bracha for my mitzvah, what did I answer him? I'm not interested. Rebbe Hasidim, we didn't know anything. There was only one Chassid who had pity on us. Rebbe Baumgartner, I'm sure you heard of him. He used to take us little kids, sit down with us, and explain to us what Hasidus is, what Rabbeim and so forth. And he became, you can say, my mashpia in the yeshiva while I was there. And then when we moved to Bedford and Dean, the situation changed over there already. We had Rabbi Garfinkel, Hasidic chassid from Shanghai, with the Shanghai Bochum. He came over and he already put us into a situation of Chassidischkeit and Rabbi Bukit. Lubavitch started becoming a Hasidic yeshiva, very simply.
Did you know your grandparents? Do you know any of your grandparents from either side? Do you remember them?
No, I think I remember my grandmother, but I'm not sure because I left Vienna when I was 5 years old. So I don't have a lot of recollections of what's going there. The only thing I remember in Vienna is the times when Hitler came twice and I was standing there watching in his parade. And the first time I saw everybody raising their hands and saluting, so I also did. My sister gave me a clap, which I feel till today. The second time I didn't do it, but this was my youth where I grew up without having any close friends, whatever you can call it. Afterwards, in Williamsburg, I had one boy who was living on our block who was my friend, and that was it.
How did being a Yeke affect your life as a Lubavitcher? The Yeke became a Lubavitcher. You were a Yeke. You came from a Yeke family, a Yekische family. So how did
I'm saying my father agreed because my father said, if Shmuel, my brother, goes, Shmuel was having trouble in Mesivta Torah with us. So he said, if Shmuel goes, then I also have to go. So that's when we came to Chabad. But Chabad was just a yeshiva then. It was not what Chabad is today. It was one of the yeshivas that in New York. There was Yaakov Yosef, there was Torah V'das, there was, afterwards became Chaim Berlin, there was the Lubavitch. American boys went to yeshiva, and that was it. There was no Chassidus there. With the Friedrich Rebbe, there was no any connection of als Rebbe and Chassidim. How many Chassidim were there then? There was Rabbi Jacobson and Rabbi Kazanovsky and the handful of Chassidim that there were, and that was it.
So when you were in Torah V'das, you had a good teacher, somebody that affected you in a big way when you were in Dafke, when you were in the yeshiva Torah V'das. Which character stood out in your education?
The Lubavitcher Chassid, my last Rebbe there, he as a Lubavitcher Chassid, Rabbi Slanim, and he as a Lubavitcher Chassid asked of the children things that no other Melamed would ask. We had to learn Hazinu and Zeis HaBaracha by heart. Ad Hayom, I remember it. Imagine little kids, little American boys. How old were we? And we all learned Hazinu and Zeis HaBaracha. This was a Lubavitcher Chassid. And in Williamsburg alone, what was there? There were the Malachim. But they stopped with the Rebbe Rashab. The Friedrich Rebbe for them didn't exist. And as I said, this is all history that we lived through, and Baruch Hashem, the whole situation, pandemic, nothing special. Then Lubavitch was a yeshiva, and it wasn't a Hasidic yeshiva till we started learning Tanya. I was already in the yeshiva for 3 years, and first Rabbi Liss, who was the mashgiach, he had Rechmanis on us, and he took us boys around Bar Mitzvah age, and he started teaching us Tanya. Outreach.
What was Lubavitch known for in those days?
Inreach.
There was no outreach.
There was no. There was outreach, the older Bachrim, the Friedrich Rebbe sent them to make yeshivas in the Orei HaSodeh. That's how the first yeshivas in Worcester, in Buffalo, started. That the older Bachrim, the Posners and the whatever, the Schildkrauts and so forth, they went out on shlichus, but that was the outreach to make yeshivas katanas. Then afterwards came the Torah Messiah, and they also started. They copied and they started making yeshivas. They say yeshiva katanas in the cities in where there were Jews already, because when the immigrants came to America, America didn't let them remain in New York. America wanted that these immigrants should be spread out all over America. So these immigrants, who were more or less, most of them frugal and wanted the children should have a Jewish education, were the ones who started really all the different yeshivas that were in the Orei HaSodeh. But Torah Messiah started afterwards. They copied what the Bachrim went out and started. And how did the Bachrim make a yeshiva? I heard one story. They used to take a private house on a main street, and when they saw a parent with a child going past, they used to go over to them and say, "Are you Jewish?" And if they said, "Yes, we have a Jewish school here. Would you like to join it?" This is how the Lubavitcher yeshivas in out of town started. You can't imagine.
What about when Shabbos you had, when you took the kids out from class?
Then there was that was later, the Wednesday hour. Rabbi J.J. Hecht, that's something else altogether.
That's when you made your first speech.
That was the outreach of Lubavitch.
And then you were shliach. Where did you go? Springfield or somewhere?
I'm going to show you some photos and ask you to comment on the photograph, okay?
I have to remember who they are.
I know, that's a test. It's a test. Okay, you ready?
Go ahead. This is Rabbi Beryl Baumgarten, which I spoke to you about. A chassid with good nefesh ruach neshama. Everything. He was the one who went to Argentina and his car fell into the river. A whole mice, and he came back, and a chassid even gave him 1,000% to the Rebbe.
I wish that you could talk a little bit more about him, because many people today don't know anything about him.
Because I'll tell you what the trouble is. When the Russians came, the Americans became second class.
Is that so? Azoy.
He gave us the first taste of what a Rebbe is and what Chassidus is. He used to sit down with us and tell us stories. Beautiful. And he was my mashpia, and also he was Baruch Hashem by my chasana.
So maybe you could share with us some specific memories that you have of him, some vertlach you heard from him. What did he talk about at Fabringen?
Then to go on shlichus was something crazy. And to go to Argentina. Who were in Argentina? The immigrants who came after the Shoah. And the Rebbe sent him down to Argentina. He went, and he nearly got killed. They said his car fell into the river, and he came back. And when he again, his whole family was destroyed. He had no family life, and it was Rachmanis. His brother Mendel, Baruch Hashem, was also very close to us, and he was also one of the mashpim to help the Bachrim, to help the children in Crown Heights.
He wants stories about Baumgarten, stories.
I don't have any stories about him. It's just that he was the one who
Okay, next photo.
He's still buried, right? Didn't see
Yeah.
the next photo.
I'm going to put up the next photo. Hold on one second. Okay.
Rabbi Jacobson, Rabbi Stroll Jacobson, my mashpia, my Masada Kedushin, my one who brought me into the esrog business. Rabbi Jacobson was something. Rabbi Jacobson was a mashpia of really a mashpia. He used to sit down with us and learn a mimer and explain in a beautiful, beautiful way. And he had a chazaka that he used to give, sell the esrogim, the Yanav esrogim in Heights, whatever it was. When it came out the whole business that they were making murkovim on the trees in Calabria, the Rebbe told him to go down to Calabria. He went down and he took with him the shamus of our shul in Milano. But this guy was a drunkard and he used to get drunk down there. The people couldn't stand him. So since I was already in Milano, he said, maybe you can come down with me. So this was in Tavshin Tezain, I don't know. No, I'm sorry. Chavav Zain. And we went down. I stayed with him. I got a little room and we stayed down for about a week. We went to the fields. He showed me exactly what has to be done. And that was it. He went back to Rome, took the plane back with a box of esrogim, and that was it. Then, if he had 20, 30 esrogim, that was something to give to the Rebbe and so forth. But that was it. And then afterwards, when he stopped coming down, so he asked me that I should go down. And I went down with Rabbi Rodal. Until this day, we're going down to Calabria this week. And we're in the esrog business.
Rabbi Oldtime. Hello, Rabbi Oldtime.
Now it's afterwards Rabbi Oldtime came down. Rabbi Oldtime of Shlomo, who just passed away. And
But I want to ask you about Rabbi Jacobson. Everybody talks about him, but how did he communicate with Americans? He spoke a good English?
Rabbi Jacobson,
Yeah.
he had no problem. He was so sweet. He was able to give over everything in such a way.
Did he speak English?
There was no problem.
Moshe, did he speak English?
No, Yiddish. We all spoke Yiddish. That was no problem.
Moshe, tell the story about Moshe.
I mean, in the Lubavitch Yeshiva, we
Tell
spoke
the
Yiddish.
story about the Chalaf, about Shabbos. He said not to cut, not to hold the knife. You made Kiddush on beer because.
I have a beautiful story with Rabbi Jacobson.
Yeah.
When I came down to collaborate to help him, so it came before Shabbos. So there was no wine in Milan those years yet, and I didn't bring any wine down from any place else. So I brought down challahs or matzahs. I remember. It came Friday afternoon. He says, "No, what do we have to make?" I said, "Here, I have the matzahs or the challahs." I don't remember exactly what it was. He says, "No, go out and buy beer." I looked at him, Rabbi Jacobson, beer for Kiddush? I see you're also making with your eyes that you don't understand it. She tells me this story. When the Friediger Rebbe was in the Kurort in Austria, Rabbi Jacobson, in those years, there were no planes, took a ship and went from America to Europe. And by train, I don't know how he did it. He got up to the Kurort, the place where the Friediger Rebbe was
Convalescing.
health, and to visit, to be with the Rebbe. I mean, this was a chassid. Imagine somebody going to see a chassid and he traveled at least 2 weeks. Maybe 10 days going and at least 10 days going back. And he tells me when he came there, again, there was no wine for Shabbos. So Rabbi Jacobson said, I brought challah, I brought matzahs to challah. So the Friedrich Rebbe said, go buy beer. Rabbi Jacobson looked, beer for Kiddush. The Rebbe answered him these words. Now I'm repeating the words that Friedrich Rebbe said. Ich kann nicht machen a bracha mit a Messer in hand. So therefore, he went and bought beer, and I bought beer, and we made Kiddush on beer. If you accept it, don't accept it, geht nicht done. But this is what we went through. This is how we lived there. And I brought down, and what did we have to eat? Over there in Calabria, there used to be a lot of fishing, but not big fish, these little sardines like. And I used to buy, Erev Shabbos, I used to buy a lot of these sardines, and we had the challah, and I bought some vegetables, and this was, the sardines was the fish, and the vegetables and the potatoes was the meat, and so forth and so on. This was the Shabbos we spent in Calabria in those days. Now it's a little bit different, Baruch Hashem.
But he told you a lot of nice things while you were there to sit and learn
And of
with
course, all the different things that I learned from Rabbi Jacobson, the Moshe, Netilas Yadayim Shachris. So he had the Netilas Yadayim next to his bed, but then the second Netila, he told me when I was with the Friedrich Rebbe, I watched how the Friedrich Rebbe washed the second Netila. So he washed hand in hand, not 3 times, but 4 times. And after that, after he finished the 4 times, 3 and 3. And that's how I've been doing it for all these years. If the Friedrich Rebbe will wash the Rebbe. So these were a couple of things that he taught me while I was there. And I can't remember all the different things but the Hasidic, he used to start davening. We used to be alone on Shabbos. He used to start davening in the morning, okay? And he used to finish davening about 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There was no minyan, you can understand. And this was Rabbi Jacobson, a chassid with all the keiches neshama. But not just in theory, in Hasidus, but doing. Rabbi Jacobson did. He didn't just talk, he didn't just tell people what to do, but he did.
I think he brought my father into his rift.
Who was your father?
Rabbi Steinmetz.
And he was brought by Rabbi Yisrael Jacobson?
He was very close to Rabbi Jacobson. Rabbi Jacobson brought my father to Beis Rivka. He made him principal of Beis Rivka.
My father-in-law, Tzvi Meir Steinmetz, Tzvi Yair, the great poet, was the principal in Beis Rivka when it started. And Rabbi Jacobson was the menayer, so they became very, very close.
I tell you, Rabbi Lazar, that story about the Friedrich Rebbe, Ich kann nicht machen a bracha mit a Messer in hand, is worth the whole interview. That's a beautiful story. I'm not done yet. I'm just telling you that story was worth the whole thing. I'm not done yet. All right, I'm going to show you another picture, okay? Another photo.
I'll show you another picture.
Rav Shmuel Levitin.
Yeah.
I have no words to describe him. If you know 770, there's the hall that goes to all the way to the back. Then there's the sink on the right-hand side. Right next to the sink, there's a door. Today, it's a library. That was Rav Shmuel Levitten's room. He had a bed there, and that was it. Rav Shmuel Levitten lived there. They brought him food, and this was his life. And Chassid with his 24 hours a day. And he used to give us over Maimorim and Sichas, such a beautiful explanation. And he was the one who was, I better not tell the story. Not, but anyways, he was the one who was the Mashpia Roshi of Lubavitcher Yeshivas. Then there was no Holy Torah, there was only Lubavitcher Yeshiva, and everything. The Rashag was the Menayel Gashmi, and he was the Mashpia Roshi. Everything went through him. Whatever the Rebbe wanted to do, he through Rabbi Shmuel Levitten. And he was our Mashpia Baruch Hashem. We don't have such examples today. It's not what he taught us, it's what he showed us, his way of living, his way of Chassid of Leben. And his Ibi gave me kite to the Rebbe. I'm sure you saw the pictures of him standing there in back of the Rebbe by the first Fabrengens. And this was Shmuel Levitten. And he was klar in all the Friedrich Rebbe's Maimorim. And not only klar, but when he taught us, most of the time he was saying the words by heart. This was a different generation. This was a different type of Chassidim. There was no outreach. There was inreach. There was Pasha steigen Chassidus and getting closer to the Rebbeim.
That's beautiful. Who else do you see in this picture?
I don't recognize any, just Rabbi Kazanovsky right next to Rabbi Shmuel. There's the Rebbe and Rabbi Shmuel Levitten and Kazanovsky.
What can you tell us about him?
I don't recognize. Shmuel Aaron Kazanovsky was the one, he had a shul in Bensonhurst, and he was the one who was more or less helping the Rashag and everything with the money matters. And he was one of the backbones of the yeshiva.
Was he involved with the story with camp? Was he involved somehow in camp? He was the one that said you shouldn't go.
And Shlomo Aaron Kazanovsky, when we bought the camp in Swan Lake, Gan Yisrael, and he was also like the responsible for Gan Yisrael in the Ruchnis Inyanim. So when I went out to buy the camp with the Rebbe's money, of course, in Swan Lake, he was the one who came out with me, and he was the one who gave the report to the Rebbe, and the money came from the Rebbe to buy Swan Lake.
Azay.
Wasn't he the one that said that wives should be responsible because you were only a bunch of young bachrim?
There was one little story, it might be interesting, that when we proposed to start camp under the Rebbe,
Right.
I get a call from Rebbe Chadakov that the Rebbe wants that I should go into Yechidus. I go into Yechidus, and this was after the summer. And I go into Yechidus, and the Rebbe already had my how do you say, bakosha to start camp. So I come into Yechidus, the Rebbe with a very, very serious face. No, first, before we started, the Rebbe asked that we are two bachrim. There was Yossi Weinbaum from a different yeshiva and myself. the parents will not send their children run by two bachrim. You need an older person. And he mentioned two names. One was Korf, who had the Shia Korf, who had the bakery, the Matz Baker, and he was free in the summer. And there was Kahas Weiss. Kahas Weiss was in Pittsburgh. He was trying to stay in New York, and he wanted a good excuse to stay in New York. Anyways, so we should take one of them as a helper. So we took Kahas Weiss. When we took Kahas Weiss, we were in that Kahas was agreeable to be the director. So the Rebbe said we should come into Yechidus. I went with Kahas Weiss to Yechidus. We come in, and the Rebbe, with a very serious face, looks at me and he says, "Favostaf Maham Camp." This was 6 months after I had written in. I had written in after the summer, and this was Pesach time, because the Rebbe said to start a camp, it takes a lot of pisur hanefesh. So I should sit and learn, and Baruch Hashem, for half a year I learned. And Pesach I should write it again. And when I wrote it again, Pesach, the Rebbe said I should get someone else. So I got Kahas Weiss, and the Rebbe said he would like to see us for Yechidus. We went into Yechidus, and the Rebbe, with a very serious face, asked for Vostap Maham Camp. When I heard that question, after 6 months of building up all the expectations, I became white, and I was going to faint. The Rebbe sees that I got all white, and I was moving around. He tells the Kahas Weiss, "Nehm him heraus, and as it feels better, come zurück. Take him out when he feels better, come back." I think I was the only one who fainted in the Rebbe's room, who nearly fainted in the Rebbe's room. Anyway, we went outside, and I tell the Kahas, "I don't understand. The Rebbe's asking me why we need camp. The Rebbe doesn't know." Because a very intelligent person tells me, the Rebbe knows, but he wants to hear why you think we need camp. Okay? We were outside, a few people went in after, between, and then afterwards, when we went in again, the Rebbe this time with a smiling face asked, "Nu, for what's up camp? Why do we need camp?" So I explained to him very simply that during the summer months, the children are not in school and they're out in the streets. So we have to have a place where they could come and have all Yiddishkeit and learn a little bit and so on and so on. And besides that, even those boys who wouldn't be playing out in the street, when it comes to the summer months and they want to sit and learn at home, the Yiddish mama had Rachmanis and her little children, he says, "No, this is not for you to learn. That wait till the summer passes." You know how Yiddish mama takes care of her children. So this I told the Rebbe. The Rebbe Shavuos said over my reasons. It's printed also in the Sikha why we need camp. This was how the Rebbe was with us. To me, the Rebbe is a Tate. I'm saying Tate in the full sense of a word. Because the Rebbe took little young American boys who were nothing and molded them, gave them koiches and expectations. You can't imagine every little narishkeit. I wrote into the Rebbe and I got a quick answer. Imagine, the Rebbe has millions of things, but he took care of us like his little children. And there wasn't, I have a pile of zettlach that I tried to keep as much as I could. It was like
a little bit of a chutzpahdik question, but I want to know what you say. I say, what's it like being so close to somebody like the Rebbe? Did it diminish your being a chassid because you knew him so well, even from before he was the Rebbe?
The Rebbe to us was not a lofty person. The Rebbe to us was a tate.
Do you understand what he asked?
Yeah. To us, the Rebbe took care of us. Every morning, not every morning, but many mornings, when we used to be sitting in 770 in the morning, the Rebbe used to come even after Yechidus, while we were learning Chassidus in the Shir Chassidus in the morning. The Rebbe used to come to 770 and look in all three doors of the Beis Medrash to see who's there. And when we went into Yechidus and one morning he didn't see us, he would ask us, why weren't you by Chassidus? Yeah, you can't imagine. For us, the Rebbe was a tata. We didn't run away from him. The Rebbe Pasha did everything for us. And we were so close to him. Everything, what he asked us was, of course, there was no question about it. The Tata Bet. This is what Chassidim today don't have. Today, the Rebbe is the Rebbe. I don't know what he is. What Chassidim think of him today, I don't know what he is. Because I am not at that level. But what I know of the Rebbe, he was my Tata. And there wasn't any problem that I had. I had to go take out my driver's license. Who do I ask? Just a little thing like that. And just to give an example, how the Rebbe watched over us. Every time I went into the Rebbe with Yechidus with my mother used to use a word everybody knows, Tachlis. What's going to be with Moshe? He has to earn money. He's going to sit and learn the whole time. And the Rebbe used to calm her down and say, don't worry, he'll marry a rich color. You don't have to worry about it. And he convinced her to let me sit and learn. One day, Rebbe Chadikov calls me over and he said, the Rebbe will mit dir reden. Do I have to go into Yechidus? No. When the Rebbe goes out from Mincha, stand by his door, and the Rebbe is going to speak to you. The Rebbe davened upstairs, so in the cell, and then he used to go back to his room. So I'm standing there by the door, and the Rebbe comes out from Mincha, and he sees me. He says, "Moshe," and these words are imprinted, they're engraved in my mind. Moshe, ich habe gepeilt bei die Mama, du sollst noch sitzen und lernen 2 Jahre. Als ich will sich sitzen und lernen, wird die Mama nicht sein zufrieden. Du darfst sitzen und lernen. These were the Rebbe told me. What are those words? The words of a Rebbe or the words of a Tata? Besides another time when in Gan Yisrael we learned to be good carpenters and plumbers and electricians. We had to do everything. So when there were benches broken in 770, I used to go down to the stallage. The stallage was where the shul is now. The shul, they see in the back, used to be like a...
Did you also build the benches?
The Rebbe used to fabreng. I used to take down these benches, and with my hammer, my nails, and my saw, I used to... When did I do it? Between 7 and 8. Between the Seder of Nigel and Seder of Chassidus. And I used to ask one of my Chavedim to bring me some supper from Bedford and Din. Because there was a little van that used to take us to Bedford and Din to have our meals. And I used to go down into the lodge with these benches, and I used to start working. One evening, I'm standing there working. The curtain that was there opens up, and who's standing there? The Rebbe heard me bang the nails, so he came down to see what's going on. And when you're working, do you work with a jacket or without a jacket? This was in the winter months, and I didn't have a jacket. What did the Rebbe ask me? Moshe, für was hast du nicht kein Rekel? Why don't you have a jacket? Is that a question of a Rebbe, of a Tata? This is our relationship in those years with the Rebbe. The Rebbe was our Tata. He took young little American boys and he made, I'm not saying Hasidim, but he made something out of them. Poshet, something. And all my Chavedim, Baruch Hashem, a lot of them left Lubavitch because they couldn't take it. But the Chavedim that remained in Lubavitch, Baruch Hashem, today shluchim and or whatever. Baruch Hashem.
That is beautiful. So you started this camp. The Rebbe was okay with the yeshiva bachrim taking off the summer to be counselors, or the Rebbe gave you a hard time about that?
There was there was no seder in yeshiva. So the bachrim used to go and dreizach around. So
There was
therefore,
no
when
seder over the summer?
camp, there was no, the yeshivas were closed in the summer. So when the bachrim came counsel to camp, was a very positive thing. And I'll tell you a little idea that I have. Where did the shluchim learn to be shluchim?
In camp.
And even today.
100%. In camp.
In camp. Why? Because a bachur in yeshiva, to speak to an audience, forget it. He has to have experience. A shliach goes into a city, becomes a rabbi, he has to speak. Where did his experience start? Where did he start giving over and teaching and showing an example as a counselor in camp? And even to today, even at Hayom, it is like that. Camp is camp for the children, but it's a proving ground and a place to learn to be a shliach.
100%.
And I'll tell you a little secret. I started off Camp Gan Yisrael with 92 boys. Last year, Gan Yisrael in the world were 150,000 children. So just tell everybody that even though you're a little young American boy and you start doing something, you never know what's going to happen.
Tell the story, Moshe.
Go ahead, next.
Tell the story about the Rebbe said you should propose.
When I was in Milan already, I'm having a little bit of.
No, it wasn't in Milan.
Anyways, when I was in Milan already.
It wasn't in Milan. It was in New York. When you were
No.
Moshe, I remember that. Okay, fine.
We started Gan Yisrael in Milan, in Italy, and there were kids from Switzerland, from Belgium, coming to camp in Italy because it was the only camp in Europe. So when I came to, but it was the Italian camp. So once I went to the Rebbe Yechidus and I asked the Rebbe if I should make an international camp Gan Yisrael. The Rebbe looks and he says, "What are you asking me? Was fragst du mir? Du bist doch Gan Yisrael."
I don't mean that story.
You know who you're talking to now.
Moshe, the one where the Rebbe said that you should make suggestions.
I should make?
No, the Rebbe said.
Was fragst du mir? That I should give the suggestions, not from there.
Moshe, this was before the summer. Before you got married. You didn't know what to do. So yes, Kadukov said, the Rebbe said.
So when I asked the Rebbe what I should be doing with my life, so the Rebbe said I should give suggestions. Shehu yitain hatzois, because I was working in the Merkus office, in the Maskirut, because I was old, I had smicha already, and I was the principal in all the Torah in the morning, and in the afternoon I was working in the Merkus office. So I asked Rabbi Jacobson, give me something to do, writing receipts and answering telephones. I want to do something. So Rabbi Jacobson says, "Was fragst du bei mir?" I should ask the Rebbe. So I wrote into the Rebbe. And so the Rebbe answered me these three words. Shehu yitain hatzois. This is how the Rebbe related to us. It's hard for this generation, your generation and the young generation, to understand what we were living through. We were living through the most beautiful times we ever had.
So the Rebbe said that you should give hatzois. So how did you end up in Italy? It was your idea?
Rabbi Gershon Mendel Gorel to sein gesunden stark was sent to Italy als a Rav, because Rabbi Perlov, who later went to Australia, and the Kehillah, which was more or less the refugees from the war, needed a Rav. So they asked Rabbi Perlov, and Rabbi Perlov asked the Rebbe, and the Rebbe sent Geshem Mendel to with his wife Bessie from Posner, from Pittsburgh, Rabbi Shalom Posner's daughter, and sent him to Milan he should be the Rav. When he was there, there was a Hebrew school, but it was just a school for Jews, not a Jewish school, if you can understand the difference. There was no limited Kaddish really, just a little bit of Ivrit and, just that was Jewish. And from the community school. So Geshman decided he has to make a Talmud Torah for these children, that they should come after they finish school, they should come and learn. But he needed a teacher. So he asked, and since when we got married, we wrote to the Rebbe that we were willing to go on slichus anywhere. So we were in Camp Tovshin Chav, and we got an invitation from Rabbi Chadakov that after the summer, we should go to Milan. We went, because the Rebbe sent us, that was it. We proposed that we were ready to go anywhere. And the Rebbe sent us to Milan. And I started off with a little Talmud Torah with 10 kids, 8 kids, 10 kids, whatever. Then we started a school, Baruch Hashem, and today Milano is a Ir Ve'im Yisrael with 3 Jewish schools, and it's a different story.
Can you tell us about Gershon Mendel?
A Chassidish Yid. But he is more Chassidish than Moshe Bapel. Moshe Bapel was his wife. She's terrific. But he was more or less giving over Chassidus, giving over Yiddishkeit. It's a different element.
Yeah.
This was a bacher that called Muhusay was Chassidus.
Okay, next photo.
I should figure it out. Who's this? Who is this? Book?
Is this Rabbi Buket?
Yes.
He was the mashgiach by us. He was the first one, like pretty on us. He was in Betfrendi in the mashgiach. Rabbi Mentlik was the Rosh Hashiva, and he was the mashgiach. And then he had Rahmanas on us. We were young boys, and he took us into a room, into a classroom, and he started teaching us Tanya. He was something special. When once I had a little story with him. We came late once, my chaver and myself, to the Beis Medrash. So he gave us a knas. We have to learn a perek of Tehillim Baal Peh. So we learned the perek Tehillim Baal Peh. Which perek? Hallelujah. And he accepted it. He started laughing. He said, "There's an kligi chevra," but he accepted it. He was one of the Bachim that came over from Shanghai, and he was the one who influenced us to sit and learn, because he did it with such ahava, with such varmkeit, and all the generations that were in the Beis Medrash in Betfrendi, who had him as the mashgiach, can attest to this. He was the one who really put it into us to really love learning.
Beautiful. Okay, next picture.
This is the famous picture when the Rebbe came to camp. And this is something I tell everyone. Everybody remembers when they came to the Rebbe. I remember 3 times that the Rebbe came to me. And this is one of the times. This is the time that the Rebbe came to Swan Lake, and he came out of the shul, and all the children were outside lined up, and I made with my hand that the children should sing very strongly. That was it. Famous picture.
Who else is in the picture?
But this was in Tafshin Chaf, after we were married already. And I can tell you who else is in this photo. There's on the left is Rabbi Chadikov, and back of him is Heber. And in back on the right, I can see all the way.
Lipska.
Who?
This is Avraham Lipska here. On the right of the Rebbe, behind.
Could be. And I don't see. In the back, there's, I think, Shmuel Prus. And that's all. You can't see anyone. Kazanov's right in back of the Rebbe. You can see a little bit on the Rebbe's right.
So how much of a shock was it when the Rebbe said he wants to visit?
It was a big shock.
Not expected?
Out of New York. And to take a ride. And it was not expected at all. But we prepared all the boys when the Rebbe came, and each boy was standing next to his bed, and the Rebbe commented to some of them. And the Rebbe, when I took him around the camp, he gave them instructions to fix certain things, change certain things, but it was something not expected. But Baruch Hashem, we were the ones, I'm saying we were the ones who were pale that the Rebbe came out of New York, that the Rebbe went a little bit and got a little fresh air. The Rebbe never left his own, never left his own.
But then he said that he never made up the time.
And he said a lot of times when people asked him to go somewhere, he said, I didn't make up for the time that I went out to camp. But Baruch Hashem, he came out to camp. And it was so great. And the Rebbe saw everything. And he understood everything.
And when he left, he said, ich habe dich nicht vorgestellt als Reichtum.
What?
Nicht vorgestellt als Reichtum. Reichtum.
Yeah. And when he was getting into the car, he told me a few words that I'm living with Atayim, because I know at least once I made a little bit of a nachas ruach for the Rebbe. He turned to me and he said, Moshe, ich habe sich nicht vorgestellt als Reichtum. Moshe, I didn't expect such a richness. And at least I did once. The Rebbe was happy because of me.
Probably more than once.
He says he thinks more than once.
Like what? Try.
Can you read it?
Of course. That was the Ramash. "100%. This is how I remember the Rebbe. This is how when he came and he tapped me on the head with a gray hat and a regular jacket.
Amazing. Amazing. Amazing.
What did he say?
Amazing.
Who else is in the picture?
Until the Rebbe started putting on a kapata, and then he convinced Rabbi Chadikov also to put on a kapata on Shabbos, because Rabbi Chadikov didn't wear a kapata on Shabbos. He was a German background, a Yeke.
Who else is in the picture?
Who else is in the picture?
There's the Shmuel Isaac Popak. And there's Beryl Baumgarten, and the boy over there, I don't know.
Yeah.
History.
It's very, very hard for us to imagine the Rebbe like this. It's very, very hard.
Not
It's very enjoyable.
ancient.
Imagine the Rebbe. Hard to imagine the Rebbe like this.
But this is what I was to us.
I know it's priceless. It's priceless.
What he was saying, I don't know if you understood. He said, didn't it take away from your reverence for the Rebbe to be so close to him? Did it make you less?
No, the Rebbe to me is my life. It's not shot that he's a Rebbe and hundreds of Sfarim and so forth, and the Ruach HaKodesh. He's my life. What I need more than that? The Rebbe is my mother in Sichas. I don't understand. I can tell you clearly, I don't. But by me, the Rebbe is here.
Azay.
I'm not saying here. Here.
Something you
A
understand.
little bit, and a little bit. And I wasn't the only one. I wasn't the only one. The first Luchim, who are they? They were all the type that the Rebbe was, not only was Mekarev, but he made us.
Tell me about my hero from Minnesota, Rabbi Feller.
Moshe Feller is my Mechuten, so I better speak on good about him.
Only good.
No, Moshe Feller was one of my Mushpoim Kempa Guda. He and Shmuel Lu. He married afterwards Shmuel Lu's sister. And they were my Mushpoim when I was the learning director in Kempa Guda before we started Gan Yisrael. The year before we started Gan Yisrael, I was the learning director in Kempa Guda. And these two were Torah V'das boys. And I was mashpia them that they should come to Lubavitch. They came to Lubavitch, and Baruch Hashem, we are good friends. And Moshe Feller was, all his stories that he has and so forth and so on, Nebuch, Mindy suffered so much in her life. But Baruch Hashem, I have an Einikel whose picture was on front page, on the cover of Kfar Chabad, Baruch Hashem. And he is a brother to me. We are all like mamish brothers. We grew up together. We lived together. And Baruch Hashem, the generations have passed.
So you had what you had, and what's your message for guys like me and guys younger than me?
Do. One word. The Friedrich Rebbe, when we used to listen from the little loudspeaker having on top of the stender in the Besmedish upstairs, there was always a little loudspeaker where we heard the Friedrich Rebbe by Verbringen speaking. We hardly were 2 or 3 people trying to listen. We couldn't understand the Rashak repeated the words. But when we heard what the Friedrich Rebbe was talking, the Rebbe was always asking to become better in Chassidus, in Davnin, and all these Geruchenstige Inyanim. That was what we heard by the Friedrich Rebbe. When the Rebbe became Rebbe, the first Sikh that we heard in Tafshin Yud, as in Dafton, ich sage dir nicht, stopp. Ich will helfen, aber jeder eine darf tun, to do. The Rebbe brought into the world what Lubavitch is today. 100 countries, thousands of shlichim. What are they doing? Steigen in Chassidus? Davening till 4 o'clock at Shabbos afternoon? I don't think so. But they are doing. They're doing what the Rebbe wanted. What the Rebbe wanted to do, he always did. The Rebbe was continuously doing, always asking people to do, and he himself showed the example. He didn't sit and close himself up in the room. He used to sit hours and hours and hours doing, personally and through letters and through anything, but always doing. Personal experience. When I was working the mosquitoes in the afternoon, when the Rebbe was there, and he used to buzz the intercom and ask if there are any letters for him in his kestele. On Chanukah desk, there was like a little kestele where you, and if there was something, I used to take it and knock on the door and go inside. And the Rebbe was always with his glasses, with a sefer in his hand. He was never sitting behind the desk, sitting and relaxing. The Rebbe was always doing. And that's what we have to learn from the Rebbe. Don't sit back and be idle. Every day has to be a day, ba bayomim. Every day has to be something that we did. How can we go to sleep if we didn't do something? All right, when you get older, you start thinking of going into retirement and so forth. But for the younger, there's no question. There has to be a continuous activity. That's what the Rebbe showed us and asked of us. Nothing else. You want to learn Chassidus day and night, Gesundheit? Chas v'chalil, I'm not saying anything. But what we heard from the Rebbe and saw by the Rebbe was his activity, his non-stop activity. And this is what we have to learn from him and try to copy him.
You remember Rebbe Chaim Mushka or Rebbe Chana?
I remember both because I had the schus that many times I was asked to buy some food from the grocery store or from Mermelstein's and bring it up to the first floor where the Rebbe Chana was, and the Rebbe Chaim Mushka used to come and to be together with her, and we smiled and thanking, and such wonderful people. And every time I brought something, they used to tell, Rebbe Chaim used to say, Rabbi Lazar, how are you? That's the way she spoke. It was beautiful. I mean, I didn't have any close relationship, but this is what I had to do because I was anything had to be done in 770. Moshe Lazar was there. He was the shamus, so I had to go to the shamus.
That's a good job. That's a good job. You remember my grandfather, my Yechanan Gordon? You tell me about him.
Rebbe. He used to sell the on Simchas Torah. He used to sell the psukim for the Rebbe. Okay? The once I played a joke on him. The lira in Italy was worth nothing. $1 was, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of lira. So once I was in New York for Simchas Torah, so he was selling the psukim. So I raised my hand. 18,000 lira. And he announced how it was $10 or something. But he was such a fine person. He took care of everything. And the kibudim and everything. He was so careful. And I don't think he ever made a mistake. And the Rebbe was so makateve, because you can imagine 770 as a base medrash, especially when the Russians started coming, was not easy to handle. But Rabbi Yechon Gordon, the Gabbai, took care of everything. And he used to be upstairs also eating. And many times I was upstairs when the Rebbe was eating together and he was sitting there by the table. He was something special. We don't have it today. Figureheads like this, I mean, people like this, we don't have today.
What about my father's father? You knew him? You knew him?
If I knew him, we
Yeah.
worked together.
How's
Yankel
it?
Friedman.
Yeah, Yankel Friedman.
Yankel Friedman worked for the Rishag.
Right.
I also worked for the shop because I used to giving out the food in Bedford and Dean, and I used to do things for the Rishag. We were working together. You have no idea how close we were.
Was he the one that used to change the checks?
Huh?
Was he the one that always changed everybody's checks?
Yeah. Yankel Friedman, if anybody had any checks, he was the one who was able to change, go into the bank and you got cash for it. How many times I needed him for camp, for different things. But he was something. I mean, you're telling me about people that were giants.
I want to hear about them. We want to hear about these people.
What do I know about Yankel Friedman? He was always close. He always sent me to do things, and I brought. It was just two working people working together. I don't have any miracles from him.
No.
But so good to work for him. With him, I'm sorry. He was always never with problems, never angry. Yankel Friedman, and he had two sons, Avremel and Manis.
He has more.
Yeah, but Baruch Hashem, these two, he brought out the best in himself with his children. I tell everybody, yichus. Everybody has a yichus. His great-grandfather and his grandfather were big rabbonim and chassidim and everything else. My yichus are the children. That's it. Your grandparents didn't do anything, but your children are your yichus. And he brought out two such wonderful children. Manas, when he was running the girls' school, the girls' seminary in Minneapolis, what was going on over there, day and night, and preparing everything. And Avram, I'm not going to talk about because Avram is Avram. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem.
Rabbi Lazar.
Yeah.
I have no words to thank you for this conversation. This was mamish a spiritual pleasure. I'm a chaya to talk to you, and your stories and your memories are priceless.
We live this. This is
Trouble is, doesn't he?
For today, it might be priceless, but this was our life.
It's a good life.
This is how we lived together. Everything was simple and so brotherly, as we said. So, mishpacha achas, mamish. We had the bruising, seinen mir, aber Brüder, seinen mir. By the Rebbe, by Fabring, used to sing this. And it's true. We were mamish. There was no difference in age or in greatness or whatever. It was Brüder. Was in seinen mir, aber Brüder seinen, was mir seinen mir, aber Brüder seinen. I would like to do something. Since you asked me to sing, I would like to sing a niggin that we sang by the Friediger Rebbe, the Shir HaGeula. And I feel it's so important to give it over to the younger generation because the words are so wonderful. I have it here printed. You can get it printed. It's no problem. Hatzileinu kel admoyed Yisgale der Vesoy Ariel Yakum Kelavi Geulas Chalanu Lehavi Leashev Shvusei Inu aleret teilanitem yibnei peret hu melech vehu Mashiach v'gam yishru eis kotis ale nitzcheinai chishis gale Chazkeinu kelad bayay Yem yachshev gayev zerayay Nizchev lehamashiach Takifim yardoduma Eisanu yishileyuma Kifim yarduduma, Esanu hishir leyuma, Techayenu miyaymayim, Bashlishinim tzachayim, Takifim yarduduma, Esanu hishir leyuma, Techayenu Miyaymayim Ashlishinim Tzachayim. It's printed in the Kriya Dusha. By the Frierdiker Rebbe. This was the Gunim we were singing by the Frierdiker Rebbe. He heard it and he used to love it. We would stand outside by the door. There was the Rebbe was sitting in his I'm standing outside, on top of the Rebbe's room.
Yeah.
Staircase, the wooden staircase. We used to stand there, a place of 5-10 Bachrim. We used to sing this niggin, and the Rebbe was so miyakir. And this is a niggin, Ubashlishi Nimtzal Chayim.